Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I'm going to be walking you through my favourite backpacking gear for 2024. I want to start out by saying that gear is a very personal choice. There's no such thing as the perfect setup, and you should pull the levers of weight and comfort based on distance, terrain, and duration of each trip. I prefer to carry a little extra weight if it means I can get dry, warm, and comfortable regardless of what the weather throws at me. Let me know what piece of gear you're most excited to use this year, and stick around to the end of the video to find out my total pack weight. Let's get into it. Okay, let's talk shelters. So depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing, I normally choose between 3 or 4 different types of shelters. Each has their benefits, so I'm going to dive into each one a little bit more now. So the first type of shelter revolves around a tarp-based system. So the tarp that I use and have been using for a number of years now is the Free Soldier 10x10 tarp. This has been a really great tarp. It's nothing special, it weighs about 1 kilogram, it's not made of Dyneema or any fancy material. The thing I really like about it though is it's got great tie-out loops on every single corner. I've attached paracord to those just to make it easier to string up and to make it a little bit more flexible. In combination with the tarp, I'll either use my Outdoor Research helium bivy bag. This is great if you just want some extra protection to keep your gear dry and you know you're going to be dealing with rodents, mosquitoes and any other creatures that you want to keep out of your gear. If the weather's good, I'll also use this Sea to Summit mosquito net. You can just string this guy up from the ridge line of the tarp and it gives you that little bit of extra protection from the mosquitoes and it takes up barely any room in my pack. The next type of shelter I use is a 2-person tunnel tent. It gives you slightly more room than the bivy does and it also gives you a vestibule to play with, so if it's really hammering down you've got somewhere to put your backpack. I've used this guy a ton over the years and it's probably one of my favourite go-to shelters and I'd recommend it to anybody if you can still get your hands on one. It is worth keeping in mind though that although it has one pole, it's not a freestanding tent and you do need to peg it out from all sides in order to retain its structure. So if you're going to be above the tree line in the alpine or you're going to be somewhere where there's lots of rocks and you can't get pegs in the ground, then maybe this isn't the best choice. So the third type of shelter that I use is a 2-person freestanding tent from Nature Hike. So it's broken up into 4 different parts. You've got the main body of the tent and the tarp in this dry bag. Then we've got the ground mat, the pegs and the poles. I love the versatility of this tent because I can use it pretty much anywhere I go. The freestanding nature of it means I don't have to worry about pegging it out if I'm in rocky areas or I'm above the tree line. It's easy to break down, never had any problems, and I've used this in windstorms, rain, lightning, and it's held up great. The last type of shelter that I use is my Hennessy hammock. This is a great option if you're in an area where you don't have a lot of flat ground or it's particularly forested because you can get up off the ground, or if you need to, you can take this to ground as well. It's a really cool system because it comes with a built-in mosquito net and a closed cell foam pad for insulation. You can also double that up and add down jackets or Gore-Tex jackets or anything else you've got in your bags to increase the insulation value of that. Personally, I've only tested this in the summer and the shoulder season and it's performed great, but I think it can be used in winter and I'd definitely like to give that a try with an underquilt later this year. Alright, sleep system. So my sleep system is broken down into 2 main parts. It's my inflatable sleeping mat and my sleeping bags. So we're going to start with the inflatable sleeping mat first. So this is my Thermarest NeoAir Xtherm Max. The Max means it's rectangular shaped and it's a little bit longer and a little bit wider. This thing's been awesome. It's been an absolute game changer this year as far as comfort goes. Personally, I'm a side sleeper, so having a couple of extra inches underneath my hips and my shoulders is a really big deal to me. This pad has an R value of 7.3, so it's definitely a little overkill for 3-season backpacking, but frankly I love having the ability to take it out year round, including the winter. I'd actually go as far to say that we've been so impressed with this pad that my partner's just bought the exact same one for this coming season. The pad itself does come with an inflation sac direct from Thermarest. I think this takes a little bit long and it's a bit manual, so I upgraded to a pump. This is called the Giga Pump 2. I got it off Amazon. I think there's a lot of different varieties available, but it comes with a small light built in the bottom of it. It's USB-C and it pumps up the sleeping mat in no time. The second type of insulation that I use is a closed cell foam pad. So this one's made by Nemo, it's called the Switchback. It's got enough R value and insulation that you can use this on its own, but I prefer to use this under my inflatable sleeping mat to stop it getting punctures. I use it around camp just to sit on, and it's also nice to organize your gear on, stop things getting dirty. Let's talk about sleeping bags. This one in front of me is my Mountain Equipment Company 650 fill powered down sleeping bag. It's lightweight, compresses down small and gets the job done, but to be honest, this is something I'm going to be looking to upgrade pretty shortly. The reason I'm looking to upgrade is the 650 fill powered down just isn't quite warm enough for me. I think in the next bag I'll be looking for around 8 or 850 fill power to keep me warm throughout the shoulder seasons. If I know the temperatures are going to drop below 0 degrees Celsius, I like to bring a sleeping bag that's a little bit more substantial. So this one in front of you is a synthetic sleeping bag by the brand 4Class. It's rated for -5 degrees Celsius, so it gives me a bit of extra warmth if things get dicey. The final part of my sleep system that I forgot to mention is my inflatable pillow from Nemo. I've been through many different brands of pillows over the years, but I always keep coming back to this one because of the amount of loft that it gives you underneath my neck. So for the last couple of seasons, I've been using this Osprey Ether 65. I really like this pack. It's an internal frame backpack. It's pretty bulletproof, very durable material, but there's two main reasons why I really like this pack. So the first of which is this large U-shaped zip up. So this allows you to unzip the pack and get right down into the bottom, all the way to the sleeping bag compartment, right the way up to the top. This saves me from digging through the pack multiple times a day to find gear that's buried at the bottom, and it also makes life a lot easier when it's raining outside. The next feature I like about this pack is the suspension system. So as I said, it's an internal frame backpack. So you've got a frame which sort of runs up around the top and then down into the waistband inside. As you can see from the waist belt here, there's tons of padding, cushioning on it there, so it's very comfortable. There's also a lot of ventilation, so you've got a little bit of air going between your back and the pack. And these shoulder straps as well also include a lot of padding, which feels great on the shoulders, and it's very adjustable. There's one thing that I think could be improved on this pack, and that is the size of the waist pockets. So as you can see here, they're quite small. They're just about enough that you can fit a couple of Cliff Bars in there, maybe a Satcom like a Zoleo or a Garmin InReach, but apart from that, that's about it. If you've got any of the larger size phones, they won't fit in here, so just be mindful of that if you're going to pick this pack up. I also wish that these pockets were positioned a little bit further round on the hip, just because it can be difficult to sort of get your arms in and get stuff out of them if you've got trekking poles or if you're in a bit of a pinch. Next up, I'm going to talk about some of the tools that I bring. Depending whether there's a fire ban in place or not, I usually like to bring along all three of these tools as they all have very specific uses. I'm going to start out by talking about my Silky Gunboy handheld saw. This thing is an absolute beast. It's really lightweight, it's super solid, it takes up almost no room in my pack, and it absolutely chews through wood. If it's a shorter trip and weight and space isn't as much of an issue, I'll also bring along my Agawa Boreal 24. This thing is a lot more heavy duty than the Silky Gunboy, and if I know I've got to process a lot of wood, then this is normally my go-to. You can see by how serrated the blade is on this one that it's more akin to a full bow saw. In general, I prefer fixed blade knives over switch blades because there's less parts to go wrong in the field, and it also gives you a bit more stability when you're batoning wood. Speaking of batoning wood, that's exactly what I use this knife for. This is my Gerber Strong Arm. I like carrying a knife with a thicker spine as it means I don't have to worry about snapping the tip off, and it also means I don't have to worry about smacking it with large pieces of wood. Next up, we've got my Morakiv, or Morakiv, I'm not quite sure how to say that. This is the knife that's permanently attached to my hip whenever I'm on most trips, and I use it from everything from chopping up steak for dinner to delimbing twigs from trees. These are the trekking poles that I've been using for the last few seasons. They're made by a brand called Cascade Mountain Tech, and they're available through Amazon. The reason I bring these is I've been having some ongoing issues with my right knee, so these just give me some peace of mind and a little bit of extra stability. I also prefer the cork handles over the foam ones, and I like the fact that these ones are telescopic and they've got a nice large basket so I can use them when I'm out in the snow. As I said earlier in the video, if weight's an issue, I'll commonly use my Nemo switchback as a makeshift chair. If that's not the case, I normally like to bring along a dedicated chair for a little bit more comfort. For the last couple of years, I've been using this collapsible chair from Nice Sea. I believe it's based on the same design as the Helinox chair, but it's a little more reasonable, so if you're on a budget, this could be a good place to look. That being said, I recently picked up this Thermarest Trekker chair. So this pairs nicely with my Thermarest inflatable sleeping pad, and it gives you more of an armchair feel. Okay, so the gear you see on the table here doesn't really fit into any specific category, which is why I've lumped it all together and put it under general. Let's start over here on the right with my mosquito bug shirt. So if I'm going to be traveling in the spring or the fall, or I know it's going to be especially buggy, I prefer to bring this full bug shirt as opposed to just a mosquito net. This has got bungee toggles and little cords on it so you can cinch it down really tight, which basically stops any mosquitoes from getting at you at all. The only thing it doesn't cover is your hands, but to be honest, I've never really needed that. Next up, I'm going to talk about my medical kit. So this medical kit is made by Adventure Medical Kits, and it's called the Medical Kit number 7. I'm not going to go into detail of every item that's in here because I know there's a lot of other good videos out there that do that, but I do want to just cover off a couple of items that I've added. First up is this little foldable pill box. So this allows me to take a couple of each different type of medication that I might need in the backcountry. That includes everything from antacids, Tylenol, Advil, hay fever, and then finally aspirin. Aspirin acts as a blood thinner and it can be really helpful in helping people that are having cardiac issues. This is a Mylar space blanket. So I carry this for two reasons. The first is it's great for warming people up if their core body temperature's dropped and they're hypothermic. The second reason is I can use this to make a super shelter to keep me dry and warm if I've got to spend an unexpected night in the bush. If you want to know more about the super shelter, you should grab a copy of Mors Kahansky's Bushcraft. Mors was one of the OGs of Canadian wilderness survival and his book is a goldmine of outdoor knowledge. I also like to carry a pair of hand warmers just in case. It's fairly self-explanatory, but these are great for warming up extremities if you're really cold. Last but not least is a little Bic lighter. I'm a big believer in redundancy, so I keep a number of these stashed throughout my pack to quickly get a fire going. This is a Zoleo satellite communicator. This allows me to send text messages over satellite to my partner. I can pull up-to-date weather forecasts, and finally, if things get really bad, I can activate the SOS to contact search and rescue. This next piece of kit is more of a luxury than a necessity, but it's come in really handy on countless occasions. It's a 10 by 25 binocular made by a company called Vortex. If you're on high ground, it's a great way to get a better look at wildlife or a view of what's up ahead on the trail. This is a relatively new piece of kit and I only picked it up at the beginning of last summer. It comes in this durable little carry case and you attach it to the top of a gas cylinder to give you a little bit more ambience around camp if there's a fire ban. I know this isn't the case for most people anymore, but I still like to carry a map and paper compass as a backup in case anything happens to the navigation apps on my phone. This model is made by a company called Suntow and it allows you to set the magnetic declination and it also has a mirror to make shooting a bearing easier, and you can also use this as a signaling mirror in an emergency. Next up is bear spray. This one's fairly self-explanatory, but it's also essential if you live in the Pacific Northwest or anywhere else in bear country. As a last resort, I also carry a collapsible air horn to scare away any really determined bears in the area. The next item on the table is my rechargeable headlamp by BioLite. For the longest time I was using a battery operated headlight until I switched over to this about 2 years ago. It's much more convenient to charge it multiple times from my power bank without having to carry backup batteries in my pack. This is a small little multi-tool. It doesn't get a ton of use, but I mainly keep it in my bag for the pliers and in case I need to make any last minute repairs to my kit. Okay, sunglasses. So this is a pair by Smith and the model name is the Bobcat. I really like these glasses because they're comfortable to wear all day and they give you a full field of view. I've also attached a waterproof floating strap to them for a little bit of peace of mind in case they take a dunk. Like I said earlier, I like to carry a dedicated power bank with me to recharge all my accessories. This one is made by a company called Orki and I keep it in this little protective bag with all the cables that I might need. Last but not least is my fire starting kit. There's a paraffin soaked rope to help get the fire started quicker. There's another little Bic lighter, a ferrocerium rod and a striker, and then finally a collapsible fire bellow. The next section I want to discuss is water filtration and camp cookware. So I'm going to start over here with water filtration first. So I bring two main ways to filter my water. The first is this platypus gravity feed system. I went for the slightly larger version of this. It's got a 6-litre bag. It just means you've got to do less trips back and forth to the river and the lake, and it kind of does all the work for you. The other type of water filtration that I use is iodine tablets. I keep them stashed in the medical kit and my cook kit for quick access. I like to carry 2 of these 1-litre bottles so that I can put electrolytes in one and I can use the other to collect water. I'm not a big fan of built-in hydration bladders, so I use this bottle hose instead. It works just the same as any other hydration tube. You just pop it in the bottle, screw the lid on the top, and then it means that I don't have to dig through my pack every time I want to collect some water. For my stove, I've been using this MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe. I've had this for about 2 or 3 years now. The main difference between this one and the regular one is this one has a slightly larger burner, and it also has a temperature regulator on it too, so you can simmer a bit more effectively. I repurposed this little canvas pouch to act as my cooking and oil kit. So if I open this up, I've got some Tabasco, some salt and pepper in a little 2-in-1 shaker. I believe this is made by GSI. And then I've got some olive oil and some balsamic vinegar, which are individually bagged and sealed. Next up is going to be the pots and pans that I use to cook with. I made this set myself by combining 2 different pot sets from GSI and Finicity. So the 2 titanium pans that you see on the outside are both made by Finicity. They're really lightweight. You can cook on them directly in the fire or you can use them on a burner. And then another neat trick is you can put the top one on top of the bottom one, and that speeds up how quickly you can boil water, and it just traps the heat. Over here are my GSI nesting cups. So there's 4 little cups which go into each other, and they also come with a neoprene sleeve. So if you've got coffee or anything else hot, it won't burn your fingers. I normally store a gas canister in one of these, and then in the other one, I've got a couple of sporks, a lighter, and a pot scraper. The next type of pot that I use is this little frying pan skillet made by Jetboil. It's got a fold-out handle, and I mainly use this on a burner. I don't put it in the fire just because I think it will wreck the non-stick coating. Then we've got this large stainless steel cooking pot from Stanley. I don't really backpack with this one a lot, and I only bring it if I know there's a specific meal that I want it for. One item that never leaves my pack are these Bushcraft grills. They're made of stainless steel, but they're very lightweight, and it's really easy to find 2 rocks to sort of balance these on if you want to cook a steak or a burger or something else. The last item on the table is this length of paracord, a carabiner, and a little bag. I use this to string up my food in a dry bag whenever I'm in bear country, and this little sack's really handy because I fill it with rocks or stones, and then it helps me to throw this over the tree and bring it back down again. The final category that I'm going to be covering in this video is clothing. I'm only going to touch on the 4 main pieces of clothing because there's just so many options out there, and it really is personal preference on how much clothes you want to take. For my waterproof jacket, I've been using the Arc'teryx Beta SV. This also doubles as my ski jacket. It's been absolutely bulletproof. I've been out in some horrific conditions, and this thing's kept me bone dry. For my insulating mid layer, I like to use a Patagonia Down Puffy. They're really compressible, they don't weigh very much, and they're quite easy to repair if you get a hole in them. Next up are my hiking pants from Fjallraven. These are a little bit heavier because they're made of a G1000 wax material, and despite my best efforts, I haven't put a hole in them yet. Just like my hiking pants, I'm also a big fan of Fjallraven's hiking shirts. They're lightweight, very breathable, and they have this pop-up neck collar which protects the back of your neck from the sun. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. For those of you interested, my total pack weight is 26.2 pounds. This is based on the most common setup that I use and includes the 2-person freestanding tent. This might shock some of the ultralight folks out there, but as I said at the beginning of this video, weight is much less of a concern to me than comfort. I also carry an extra 5 to 10 pounds of camera gear to film each episode, so I won't be cutting off the end of my toothbrush anytime soon. If you got something out of this video, do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.